Okay, back with you now here on Newzroom Afrika. The world of work has changed dramatically since the COVID-19 pandemic. Multiple studies last year found that people were either leaving their jobs en masse or quitting quietly during the toxic working environments that weren't good for their mental health. Well, joining us now to discuss how employees can better cope with the demands of the workplace is Netcare Akeso Occupational Therapist Ashira Moonsamy. Ashira, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. Our brains generally wired to lean towards wanting a positive experience. So how do people come into a workplace and avoid, I suppose, the proclivity to lean towards experiences that would bring, a negative effect into their space?
Yeah, so I think that I'm gonna be preaching balance the whole time. So I think coming into a workspace, a new workspace, or whether we're returning into an old workspace, it's important to think differently about, what am I doing this year? How am I taking it on? Being realistic about what we're taking on as well. I find that people, sometimes we put a lot into work, but we don't actually make sure that the other areas of our lives are in check to carry us through the work that we need to do. So I always like to say that we are these cups of energy, and it's good to pour out from the cup of energy. It's necessary to expend that energy. We give it off to work, and work is a good thing. It sustains us. It gives us meaning. It gives us purpose. We feel a sense of accomplishment from it. But to sustain it, we have to have other things sustaining that energy as well. Work can be really fulfilling, but it's only going to sustain your energy to a certain point. It's really important to then be able to go back home and switch off from work a little bit. It's also important to have social and leisure pursuits, which are going to feed into your energy that you're going to give off later. Yeah. I also think that speaking about balance on a large scale like that is important, but also narrowing it down to, in my actual workspace, how am I planning my day? How am I using my time? I find that the biggest thing is time management. I think these days we're finding lots and lots of new and efficient ways to do things. And I think there's a lot out there for us to kind of look at and see, like, what does work for me? How do I sustain my workflow? How do I sustain my energy? And at the same time, not trying to, steam train ahead, but kind of balancing it out. I think a lot of people start off the beginning of the year with a lot of energy, with a burst of energy. They want to go, go, go. There's a lot of goals and motivation, but we tend to tire ourselves out. So one of my biggest recommendations is, don't wait for those periods of rest. Don't wait for the leave. Do it now. Fill your cup now. It's not that I have to work for a long period of time, and then when I'm drained out and tired, then I'm trying to refresh myself. So really just, being aware of the self, being aware of, what are my needs, so that we can give off our best in the workplace, and that we're not burnt out by the end of the year. So
if you're feeling that that balance is off kilter, how do you use boundaries, I suppose, to regain and redress that balance?
Yes, boundaries. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Boundaries come in so many different areas of our lives. Maybe one of the most important things that I see, or most prominent things that I see with my patients, are that they come in and they say, well, there's no time for me to have lunch. There's no time for me to take a break. And what we're doing, that we're actually doing ourselves a disservice, and we're actually jeopardizing our quality of work if we're not taking those breaks, if we do not set clear boundaries around those breaks. Workplaces generally will say that your lunch break is from this time to this time, or this is what you're entitled to. There are labor laws saying that this is what you're entitled to. And so therefore it's important to put those boundaries in, whether it's a half an hour lunch break, whether it's a tea break here and there, to actually take them. A strategy that I use myself is that I don't sit at my desk while I'm having my lunch or my tea break, because I like to get a switch, kind of a separation between this is my workspace and then another space that actually takes me out of the work mind space and into a break space, so a physical boundary, kind of a mental boundary as well. And then I also, like I said, I also think it's important to boundary what is work and what is home life. And I understand that is so difficult for people, that it's sometimes sounds unrealistic that, I don't take my work home. But, you're going to be doing so much better in the long run with work and over the longer period of the year, and feeling so much more satisfaction if we actually put those strong boundaries in place. It might feel weird to say no now. It might feel weird not to repeat the same patterns now, but in the long run, it's actually going to be so much better.
So many people may be moving into new work environments, others returning into their old work environments. And when we talk about nurturing good relationships, one thinks of how to avoid conflict with humans. In other instances, not quite possible, because wherever humans are, conflict is bound to happen. But how do you approach that particular aspect of nurturing good relations?
Conflict, definitely inevitable, because we're so different, because we all work differently. We have different values, and that's the beauty of being human. When conflict does occur, or if there's an indicator that there's some conflict that might arise, conflict can be healthy. It can be dealt with in healthy ways. I think that it's important for us to find, what is generally your conflict style? Are you someone who attacks it quite head on? Are you someone that kind of shrivels away from it? And to recognize, what is my conflict style, and is it helpful to the situation? Thereafter, communication. That is, I would stress communication when it comes to conflict. Whether, if it's uncomfortable to actually approach someone directly and speak about what's going on, then have someone who can mediate. I think in a workplace, generally, it's important for maybe managers as well, the management level, to have specific kind of guidelines for how do we manage conflict? Where do you go? How do you speak about it in a workspace? I think there also needs to be a boundary in terms of what is work and professional, and what are my professional relationships as compared to my personal relationships. And very often there can be conflict if those two start to mesh together. So in terms of conflict, one, again, just recapping, recognizing what your style is, recognizing what the pros or cons might be of that, and then seeking advice, communicating when it comes to conflict, and then thinking about, are there specific boundaries that are in place that is going to protect these relationships? Yeah, so I think those would be, in a nutshell, my advice. But obviously, conflict can be very, very specific, and for you to get more specific advice, definitely communicating with someone, asking for advice, and kind of being at a level-headed space to attend to it, not to leave it.
Now, you've already mentioned, Ashira, that don't wait for the break moments, don't wait for the leave moments, don't wait for the holidays. But maybe sometimes it's also important for one to have particular triggers in place, create some warning stress signals. What are your tips there that would let one know that, listen, you are now on the edge?
So definitely triggers. I kind of use the word like indicators, or your symptoms rather. So something that I do with my patients or clients as well is that we create a stress scale. So you go from 0 to 10. And on the one side, we look at, if it is a scale of stress, or if it is a scale of my, how do I react when I'm fatigued, or if there's a problem with anger, you can do it for different kinds of distress, but taking stress itself into consideration. So I would go at a 0 of stress, I'm not really feeling anything, I'm not really exhibiting anything. At a 5, at a level 5, maybe then I'm feeling a bit tired, I'm feeling worn out, I might be losing motivation to work. Something that I really used to enjoy before now feels like much more of a task or a chore, and it's draining me. I'll give you guys an example from myself, and I'm a healthcare professional. I love doing what I do. I love people, but I actually, if I'm getting too tired, I can feel my empathy burning out, which is not ideal for a healthcare professional, especially one in mental health. So a warning sign, catching yourself when you're noticing these things, being mindful of what am I, how am I responding? What am I feeling in this moment? And mindfulness about what you're feeling and checking in with yourself is so important, to then say, okay, I'm at a 5 now. What do I need to go and do if I'm at a 5 now? Or actually, I'm reaching danger level of like a 6 or 7. What do I need to do there? Or do I need to take a break? Is it a day's break? Is it that I need to go and do something that refills my cup? What is it that you need to do? And I think when it comes to self-awareness is so important for these things. I highly recommend something like journaling. And journaling can be done in so many different ways. Journaling can be something written, but if you're not a writer, that's okay. It can be something like a video, like a vlog. It could be a picture that you take. It could be art that you do. Anything that is going to highlight or help you reflect on where am I at or what space am I at in this particular moment.
Therapist Ashira Moonsamy, appreciate your time and thank you for your intervention this evening here on News at Prime.